The first official week of the NFL season has just wrapped up. This is the 2020 season that nobody was too sure if we were even going to have. After week number one, it is good to say that football is back. Let's go ahead and get into it, starting with the Thursday night game of the Houston Texans taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. As you can see, the Houston Texans lost 34-20. The Kansas City Chiefs won the game. In this matchup, the Houston Texans or not defense, but their offense seemed to struggle quite a bit throughout the game, and the Kansas City Chiefs said, "Hey, we're the Super Bowl champions," and continue to do Super Bowl champion things. It was very nice to see them pick up the pace, whereas the Houston Texans were, at least Bill O'Brien was left thinking, man, I should have got a second bag of Doritos for DeAndre Hopkins. Sure could have used that second bag tonight. So that was an interesting game to start off the NFL season. They also did a pregame ceremony about the Black Lives Matter, or at least just showing unity, which a lot of the fans booed that were in attendance. I don't want to get into what that means, but it's just something notable that came prior to the game. Moving on, the New York Jets took on the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, and the Buffalo Bills won the game 27-17. Now, Le'Veon Bell got hurt in the game, but the New York Jets offense just wasn't really the same. And the Bills, they started off hot. They looked good throughout. They're trying to show why they're a lot of people's favorites to win the NFC East. Moving on is the Green Bay and Minnesota Vikings game. Minnesota hosted this one. This is the first time that Minnesota has ever hosted Green Bay in Minnesota for week one. Every time they've ever played on week one has always been at Lambeau Field. Green Bay said, hey, we're going to treat it like it's Lambeau, and went ahead and laid a 40-burger, which was the highest scoring game of the weekend, with 77 combined total points. But don't let the score fool you, because the Minnesota Vikings, they looked good on their first drive, but then they just kind of fell apart, and you're wondering what happened. The Packers dominated this game in time of possession, scoring, obviously. It was not Minnesota Vikings' day. They probably could have used an extra week to get ready for this matchup. Moving on. This game. Okay. So this game, the Philadelphia Eagles went into Washington to face the first ever Washington football team. Okay. Fantastic. Should be an easy W for the Eagles. And the Eagles pooped the bed. They got my very prestigious Golden Trash Can Award, because this was the worst game to lose, in my opinion. The Washington football team, this was a team that struggled a lot last season, and they don't even have a proper name. And the Philadelphia Eagles were heavily favored to win this matchup. And the Washington football team said, screw you, we play football. It's in our name. Just another key takeaway from this game that I feel like I would like to mention is the head coach of the Washington football team, Ron Rivera. He is diagnosed with cancer right now. And during halftime, he actually got an IV put into him just so he can finish up the game. Normally, a head coach during this halftime time is trying to go into the locker room and pump up the guys and get them ready for the final half. He wasn't there, so Dwayne Haskins took charge, gave the halftime speech, and they went on to win the game. What a fantastic story, and I'm very happy for the Washington football team and for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is your first golden trash can. You guys earned it. Moving on is so the Browns and Ravens game. Again, Reminder, last season, the Browns were a lot of people's off-season favorites. They got Odell Beckham Jr. This season, Odell Beckham Jr. said, hey, I like the Browns just as much as everybody else. And if you don't know what that means, don't Google it. The Baltimore Ravens obviously were very upset with their performance last season in the playoffs against the Tennessee Titans and decided to redeem themselves against the Browns this week. Also, in case you forgot, the Ravens last time, or the Browns were the last team to beat the Ravens in the regular season. But this season, Baltimore got it done. The Browns, they struggled. It's Cleveland. You know, we all were hoping that Kevin Stefanski could possibly do something a little bit better for the Browns and give that fan base hope. But no, just like the last 16 season openers, they lost. They are 0-15-1. I thought I was having it bad with the Saints going like maybe, I think, four opening seasons in a row. I couldn't imagine 16. That's rough. Anyways, all right. Moving on to the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Jaguars won that game 27-20. Phillip Rivers had a monster game with the Indianapolis Colts, but ultimately it came down to Gardner Minshew and the Jaguars. Gardner Minshew had 3 touchdowns on the day, and he only had 1 incompletion. He had more touchdowns than incompletion. Now, am I saying Minshew Mania is back? I hope it is. I really love Gardner Minshew. I think he's just a fun guy to be around. And I honestly want to see him and the Jacksonville Jaguars succeed. I'm very happy that they got this win. The Colts, they had the lead for the majority of the game, but then just stuff happened. Football happened. And they should not feel too bad because clearly Phillip Rivers is going to be a massive threat for the Indianapolis Colts. So who knows? They might bounce back next weekend. Moving on. The new Las Vegas Raiders go into Carolina, go into the Panthers litter box and stomp around. And you may be asking yourself, why would the Raiders want to be stepping around in a cat litter box? And it's to show their dominance. They don't mind being in a black hole. The Las Vegas Raiders won this game 34-30. Teddy Bridgewater actually looked pretty decent in his first appearance in the teal. As a Saints fan, I'm very happy for him. I hope he does well with the Carolina Panthers, and he might. Again, Christian McCaffrey is the focal point of the offense. Their defensive rookies are going to take about a season or two to really develop. So not this season, but probably next season or the season after that, Carolina is going to be a problem. Right now, the Raiders have a bunch of talent on their offense and defense from numerous first-round or second-round picks. They are an exciting young team to watch. John Gruden is going to make sure that this team has a good and memorable first season. And after this first game where Josh Jacobs went off like a mother, you can clearly see the signs are there that Vegas wants to have a good first season. Moving on to the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. Now, for those of you who saw my predictions video, I thought the Lions were going to win this one, and they nearly did it. But the Chicago Bears won this game 27-23, and ultimately it came down to the last drive where the Lions had a wide open touchdown, and the receiver couldn't bring in the ball. That's not fair. He's not a receiver. He was a running back, but he couldn't bring in the ball. Mitchell Trubisky did not impress me in his opening week. He struggled very early on. But the Lions did what the Lions did last year, and they lost having a fourth quarter lead. Is this going to happen again, Detroit? Are you guys really going to get us excited that, hey, maybe you guys are finally taking the next step just to lose in the fourth quarter? I can't. Until you guys show me otherwise, I don't know if I can pick you. And your guys are facing the Packers this week, and I'm sure as hell not picking the Lions. Next up, we have the Battle of the Birds. The Seattle Seahawks going into Atlanta to face the Falcons. The Seattle Seahawks won the game 38-25. Russell Wilson. When in doubt, send Russell Wilson out, and he's going to go nuts. He doesn't have the best record against the Atlanta Falcons, but on week 1, 2020, that didn't matter. Oddly enough, I thought Todd Gurley played pretty well for a guy with arthritis. The Falcons, they were okay. Obviously, they didn't do enough to win this game, and Russell Wilson is trying to go for an MVP-like season. So I really didn't see how the Falcons were going to pull away with this one. Again, I don't think the Atlanta Falcons are all that good. Who knows? Anything can happen. The year they went to the Super Bowl, they didn't have a great start, but they finished off this year really well, and that's how they've been handling their business. But this season, Dan Quinn is on a very short leash, and I don't know if ownership is going to really like this outcome. Moving on to the Miami Dolphins going into Foxborough to take on Cam Newton and the New England Patriots. Did we see the return of Super Cam? Yeah, he's not super yet, but he's definitely shaking off a lot of the kryptonite. The Miami's Dolphins lost this game 21-11 to New England. Cam Newton set a new rushing record for the New England Patriots with, I think it was like 67 yards. I don't have the exact stats in front of me. I'm sorry. But rushing by a quarterback, Cam Newton set the new record. He looked like he was actually having pretty fun. He didn't look as animated as he was in Carolina, but that's probably due to being in the Patriots system. And the Miami Dolphins were there. I'm sorry, Chris, but even you picked against your own team. I don't know what you want me to say. Moving on, this is a heartbreaker. So the Los Angeles Chargers go to Cincinnati to face the Bengals, and the LA Chargers won the game 16-13. Now, here's why it's a heartbreaker. Joe Burrow, the rookie quarterback of Cincinnati, had a chance to win the game had it not been for the receiver not catching the ball in the end zone, which then brought out the kicking team, the special teams. And Chargers fans are probably feeling pretty good being on the other side of this because the kicker missed. The tying kick missed in the dying seconds of the game. It allowed the Chargers to walk away the game beaten, bruised, but winners. Now they will be taking this momentum back to LA. So hopefully we can see the Chargers do something. They did not impress me against the Cincinnati Bengals. And with the Cincinnati Bengals and how Joe Burrow played, I think we're starting to see a little signs of life. Again, this is very early on, so anything can happen. But I'm looking forward to seeing more Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. All right. The next game, we have the Arizona Cardinals taking on the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco. The Cardinals won the game 24-20. So did the Cardinals win the trade with the Houston Texans for DeAndre Hopkins? I mean, they let go of the running back David Johnson. Wow. That was such a big piece for the offense. Of course the Cardinals won that trade. God, everybody knew the moment we heard about DeAndre Hopkins getting traded to Arizona that this was a good trade for Arizona and not for the Houston Texans. And Arizona said, welcome to Arizona, big guy. Here's 14 receptions, a career high for DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins went off on San Francisco. Now, San Francisco in the offseason towards training camp, a lot of their defensive players were hurt. George Kittle got injured during the game. Now, it's not looking like it's too serious. They're evaluating for next week, but he was hurt. But the Arizona Cardinals took advantage and walked away with a W. This is huge for Arizona because they beat the team that lost in the Super Bowl. This was a team who had the scariest defense, and Arizona said, we now have DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray. This is going to be a fun team to watch this season. I'm looking forward to it. San Francisco 49ers, I expect them to bounce back next week, so we'll see what happens there. Next up, it was the biggest game of the weekend, the hyped game of the week, and it wasn't even the Sunday night game. You had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers being led by Tom Brady going into New Orleans to face Drew Brees and the Saints. This was what the NFL was booking from the very start. As soon as they heard Tom Brady going to the Buccaneers, they said, we need to get Buccaneers and Saints to play week 1. And did they play? Was it as big as the hype led it on to be? Yes and no. So both quarterbacks struggled. Tom Brady looked a lot better in moments than Drew Brees. Drew Brees didn't really throw the ball deep. It was a lot of like the shorter passes, and that's okay because they still won. But Tom Brady threw a couple of interceptions, and he wasn't really looking too comfortable at times in the Buccaneers scheme, but that didn't stop the defenses from really playing. The Saints defense is what led the team to a victory. Had they not buckled down, Tampa Bay could have easily have stole this one from the New Orleans Saints. So if you don't like defensive battles and you were just hoping to see like Tom Brady and Drew Brees duke it out like they would have 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, this was not the game. But if you don't mind a good defensive battle, this was awesome. Did it live up to the hype? Yes and no. The Saints walk away with a W, 34-23. It was a good, serviceable game, but probably not as hyped as it was. Moving on, the Sunday night game. All right, so we had the Dallas Cowboys going into the Los Angeles Rams, new stadium, LA Rams. Beautiful, beautiful SoFi Stadium. I'm looking forward to whenever I can go to that stadium personally. The Dallas Cowboys lost this game 20-17 against the Rams. Now, for any Dallas Cowboys fan that is watching this game and saying, we should have won, we got screwed, let me just start off by saying I'm a Saints fan. Before you start talking about pass interference, let me remind you, you guys went for it on 4th and 3 and got stuffed immediately behind the first down marker. You guys had plenty of chances to win this game, just like the Los Angeles Rams. Now, do I think that PI was BS? Yes. You guys got a PI call on you. We didn't get that PI against the Rams. So I don't want to hear it. You guys need to move on, just like how they said it to us. And for the Rams, knock it off. I'm so sick and tired of all this pass interference with you guys. You guys need to behave yourselves. I don't care that you got rid of Nickel Roby-Coleman. You need to behave yourself. Bad Rams. Bad. Let me just also say this while I have everybody's attention. The PI review that, was implemented last season as a test that got taken away this season because the league determined that it wasn't really helping. A lot of those pass interference calls weren't overturned because the refs really didn't want this rule. The refs didn't want this rule to begin with because it's always been a judgment call, and you can't ref a judgment call. Now, this would not have helped the Cowboys because it was within the 2 minutes and they couldn't challenge the play, but it just drives me crazy that they got rid of this rule because the refs didn't want it. And it's like, look at this now. If this rule was put in place, the refs could have seen that it was not pass interference and probably would have let the Cowboys be in a position to win the game or tie the game. So while I think that Cowboys fans need to get over it, just like all the Saints fans need to get over it, I think that the NFL made the wrong choice with getting rid of this rule. That's my little piece. The Rams need to behave themselves, but they are 1-0 this week. Moving on to the Monday night games, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers going into New York to face the Giants. The Pittsburgh Steelers won this game 26-16. Honestly, you guys might be shocked to hear this, but I was actually pretty impressed with how the New York Giants defense played. Now, I don't know if it's because Big Ben was getting off to a slow start or if the running backs weren't the best, but honestly, I was pretty impressed with the Giants defense. Same with the Steelers defense. Both teams seemed to attack the run and didn't really let any run game get started. It was mostly a battle through the air, and Saquon Barkley, for the most part, was held in check. I was very surprised, but welcome back to the league, Big Ben. He walks away with his first win returning, and after the game, he said that he came back because of his teammates, and that's why. He wanted to be there for them because they love him just as much as he loves you, or he loves them. In which case, he's saying, I don't care about Pittsburgh. That place has Pitts in the name. I'm kidding. And the final game of the week, we had the Tennessee Titans going into Denver to take on the Broncos. The Tennessee Titans won this game 16-14, which is insane. So the biggest story coming out of this game after just watching it is Stephen Gostkowski. Who's Stephen Gostkowski? If you're watching this, you're probably a big fan of football, and you probably know who Stephen Gostkowski is. But let me just remind those who don't know. Stephen Gostkowski played for the New England Patriots, multi-time Super Bowl champion kicker, Stephen Gostkowski. He left the Patriots in the offseason to join the Tennessee Titans, and this game, he went 1 for 4 field goals. He was not good anytime whenever it was in the 40-yard range, and he missed an extra point. Now, adding all of that up, that is 3, 6, 9, 10 points that the Tennessee Titans missed out on having. This game could have easily been 26-14. But Stephen Gostkowski missed a lot of kicking. Now, kicking is not easy in the NFL. Don't let anybody try to discredit those players because they put in just as much work. Have you ever tried kicking a ball 50 yards down the field? I don't think so. It is extremely hard. You have to be accurate. Stephen Gostkowski, he is a veteran. He's been in the league for a long time. But tonight, he wasn't on it. And I told my dad watching it on the final kick, it looked like he was in his own head. Also, on the final play of the game, they were showing the sideline of Tennessee, and they showed like Ryan Tannehill just standing there, like, yeah. And then they showed Steven Gostkowski looking like he had a little smirk on his face, just. And I was like, he has no right to be that smug. I kicked a field goal. No, very bad, very bad. But again, Derrick Henry was given control of the ball towards the end of the game, and that's whenever he really shined. The Denver Broncos do have a lot to look forward to with the lineup. Jerry Jeudy looked great. It's going to be a great young core, and this week they were really missing Von Miller. But the pass rush also disrupted the Tennessee Titans. So those were the games. This week had a lot of upsets, a lot of surprises, but it was a fun NFL first week. I'm so grateful that the NFL is back. We'll have to see what happens following this week. Will there be any COVID outbreaks? But hopefully the NFL has learned from MLB and hockey and the NBA. So we'll see what really happens. But I'm so happy I finally get to say this with the right context. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the final score. Thank you and good night.